Coach Freeman.
All right. It's been a really good morning. Highlighted, just got a call about 10, 15 minutes ago as we were coming over here that Madden Faraimo, his papers just came in and he signed. So that was a huge get for us. That obviously came down to the last minute. The rest of this class, who we feel very strongly about, we kind of knew, obviously, that they were going to sign. But Madden was a guy that came down to the last minute, and it just came in officially. So we're excited to, officially welcome all these new members to our Notre Dame family. Our recruiting staff, in collaboration with our coaches, identified our needs, and we feel great about how we addressed them. A lot of people contribute to the success in recruiting, and so I want to make sure I thank everybody that's involved, but especially our recruiting and personnel staff, coaches and support staff, admissions and academics, Fighting Irish Media, and last but not least, this is a program built on values and relationships, and our families play a huge role in creating the atmosphere. So I want to make sure I thank all the families that were involved with recruiting. So I know they have questions, specific questions about this class, but I'll open it up for questions from here.
Front row, on your right, John Bryce.
Marcus, how much just has today, signing day, changed in the short time since you took over as head coach?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's changed is, when they moved the signing day up a week and it's dead for us, once the season's over. Once week 12 is over, that's changed a lot, because usually right after the last game of the season or week 12, you can go on the road and see all these families and see the guys that you think you're going to sign. And so that's made it more important than anything that we continue to have these relationships, through FaceTimes, through Zooms, see the guys that you can during the season, and then make sure there's no surprises on signing day.
And how different is it, I guess, to evaluate a signing day, or how much fluidity is there because of the transfer portal, because the calendar has changed? I think the calendar, a coach told me this morning, has changed every single year since COVID. There hasn't been the same calendar once.
Yeah, I think, to each football program their own. For us, the value of high school recruiting is utmost importance. We're going to be a program that builds its foundation based off high school recruiting, and we will supplement recruiting with the transfer portal, but I never want to be a football program that majors in the transfer portal. We will minor in it at specific positional needs, but this is a huge day for us, and it's so important, because this is what's going to be the foundation of this football program, is the way we recruit in high school, the way we identify the needs that our program has, and the way we develop these guys.
Front row, on your right, Erik Hansen.
Hey, Coach, can you since you just mentioned them, can you give us the backstory on Madden signing with you here at this kind of late hour, and what does it mean to have him in your class?
Well, I think it was a unique one, right? One that came down to today. We talked last night, and his mind wasn't made up. We talked this morning. His mind wasn't made up, and sometime after his conversations with our coaching staff, myself, Chad Bowden, he came to the realization that this was the place he wanted to be. And it was funny. I was talking to him. I said, "Man, I kept saying, choose hard, choose hard. That's what we use around here." He said, "Coach, I chose God." And I thought that was a powerful statement, and speaks volumes about the young man and his family. But one of those ones that came down to the last minute, and until the papers came in, you still were, we're on pins and needles. But he's important. This linebacker class as a whole was important. I think we signed 3 linebackers. Really, you look from Philadelphia with Sacca, Anthony Sacca, to Madden, to Hawaii with Koʻo. It's coast to coast, almost worldwide. You know what I mean? You travel a lot of miles, but feel really good about this linebacker class.
In terms of wide receivers, it was kind of a interesting path with the wide receivers. How would you characterize the wide receiver recruiting? And you have the number 4 scoring offense in the country. You have a much improved passing game. Do you think that shows up maybe more next cycle than this cycle?
Shows up, what you mean, this class?
In terms of wide receivers, like 2026 guys saying, yeah, I want to play there, where maybe the 2025 guys had their minds made up before the offense got in gear?
Yeah, I think for us, we were looking for speed, and we got that obviously with Scrap Richardson and Elijah Burress and Jerome Bettis. We're looking for speed, but also really good football players, and that's what we feel like we got with this class in wideouts. And again, we're extremely happy about it, and we'll continue to recruit wideouts at a high level. Coach Brown and Coach Denbrock have done a great job of showing how we use the wide receivers and how you're really able to reach your full potential here and reach your goals. So I see us to continue to recruit wideouts at a high level.
Third row on your left, Bennett Wise.
Coach, when it came to retention, how do you feel like the last 10 games sort of impacted not just retaining some of these recruits, but also flipping others?
I'm seeing, with Erik Schmidt, that was huge for us, and being able to get a kicker, at the last minute. But, I'm trying to just address your question in recruiting in terms of flipping guys or getting guys at the last minute. But I think for us, retention, it still comes down to relationships, right? And making sure that the guys you coach and the guys that are in your program believe that they can reach their goals here, that this is the right place for them, and that the journey maybe that they foresaw on the front end isn't always how reality is. But if they embrace the role and feel like they're a vital piece for it, a vital piece of this program, then I think that's how you retain those guys. Yes, winning matters. I think that's extremely important. These guys are all excited to really get ready to prepare for a playoff run, and I think all those things contribute to retaining a roster.
Front row on your right, Pete Sampson.
How much does Faraimo change the way you view this class on the whole?
I think he is a huge piece of what we were looking for defensively, right? We wanted to get 3 linebackers. We had 2 for a long time, and he's the 3rd linebacker that adds a huge piece to what we were looking for defensively. I think we signed 5 D linemen, 6 DBs, which was something we wanted to address, but we needed the 3rd linebacker, and that was an important piece. Obviously he's a highly recruited kid, but I think he's a heck of a football player along with those other 2 guys.
And I guess I asked that more on the highly recruited part of it. It's like it's a battle that you won, similar to Kingston last year in some ways. Like, does that sort of change the, like, okay, these are battles we can and need to go out and keep winning?
Yeah, I think with the right guys, right? And I'm very direct with our coaches and our recruiting staff to, number one, we still got to find the right fit and trust our evaluations, right? And I don't know if you would have looked at last year's class and said that Anthony Knapp and Leonard Moore were the top-rated guys. Kingston was one of the top-rated guys, but, those guys are contributing mightily for us right now, and but that was an evaluation, right? Our coaches saw them live and in person and trusted their evaluation. So, yes, there's some truth to the recruiting rankings, but I think more importantly, we still have to trust our evaluation and our eyes in terms of bringing in the right guys to this program. Obviously, you've heard me say this before, we can't recruit everybody. We got to recruit the guys that fit this place, but we want to get the best players in the country to do.
Staying on the right side, Tim Priester.
So I guess I can cross out this question that says, do you anticipate adding anyone else to the class? I mean, that's it. It's just a Faraimo, right?
Yeah.
Kind of along the lines of what JB was asking about, but, the recruiting landscape changes maybe not even yearly on throughout the course of 1 year. But I wonder if anything happened along the way during this process where you said, next year we're going to do it differently, or next year we're going to do it this way.
Well, I think every year, every month, every day can change your approach to recruiting, your approach to your football program. And It changed. As you said, it's changed yearly in the last 4 years. But you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to enhance, because if you don't, I think you're going to get passed by. And we got some innovative people in our staff. We try to continuously be forward thinking. Is roster limits going to happen and all these different things? You got to have a plan for both roster limits and no roster limits. Hey, 85 scholarships. You have to have a plan for both. And so it's a challenge to all of us to continuously be forward thinking. What's next year going to look like? All right, what's 2 years from now going to look like? What's our positional needs? What do we need to address in the transfer portal? I think constantly staying one step ahead or being quickly able to adapt your approach is really what's going to make people successful.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horka.
Coach, and adding Blake to the quarterback room, and then with everyone that you have coming back, does it feel like this is the year where maybe you decide that, we have all we need and you don't need to go to the transfer portal?
Yeah, I said that, I think, during the season. We have no plans on going to transfer portal for a quarterback.
And then that being the case, like I said, adding Blake, what does he kind of bring to the room? And then with those 4 guys, if you get them all back, what do you kind of have in that room?
Yeah, I feel really strong about the guys we have in our quarterback room right now with Steve and Kenny and CJ. All possess different talent. All do things well. All have areas of improvement, like we all do. But I feel really strong about the quarterback room as a whole. And adding Blake, really a guy that presents almost a dual threat, a guy that can extend plays with his legs, has a really good arm. What I love most about Blake in really the short time and being able to get to know each other is his competitive spirit, his leadership. You don't have to be in a room long with him to understand the leadership values that I believe quarterbacks must have. And he definitely possesses that leadership, a competitive spirit that we look for.
Right side of the floor, Tim O'Malley.
Coach, you mentioned scholarship numbers changing, and I was curious how, when you get to 105 now in the future, what's the kind of the future of your preferred walk-on program? If you look at, obviously Faison's the headliner there, but if you're looking at guys from graduate all the way down to freshman year, it's always helped you. Are there spots for preferred walk-ons? Is the obvious answer they can be scholarship players now, and what's the future of that program?
Yeah, again, we have a plan, but it's not really. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because we don't know, right? I think they're going to vote on it in April to see if that's going to happen. We have a plan anticipating it does happen. We have a plan if it doesn't happen. I value walk-ons. I've said that before. What the walk-on process and those guys have done for our program has been tremendous, right? The value they brought into this current team has been tremendous. And so it's something I don't ever want to totally get away from, but we also got to look, see what's best. If they put roster limits in place, then we got to make decisions what's best for our football program. But I never want to just truly abandon the walk-on process.
The short follow-up to that is you probably can't answer it, but would there just be necessarily a few spots open for walk-ons in the future? If you get 105 guys you want, then there's not 3 or 4 spots open, but generally speaking.
Yeah, there could be and should be.
Left side of the floor, Pete Byrne.
Hey, Marcus. When you think about the overall health of a program, days like today are really big, and then obviously what happens on Saturdays are big. Could you just kind of summarize like how important the last 4 days are for Notre Dame football and just the position you feel like you guys are in right now?
Yeah, I think for us, my message to the team on Monday when we met was, let's take this week to reload, recover, refocus, re-energize. When you have an opponent on Saturdays, that drains you. That takes a lot of, not even just the physical work, but the mental approach, right? Because as we know, if we don't have the right mental approach, we can be beat. And so you have to have the right mentality. The thing about this week is we don't have an opponent. And it's really been great as an entire football program to be able to just reset a little bit. And our guys have to focus on academics and finishing strong, but also being able physically to recover. And so this has been a really important week. This is our bye week. Right? We don't have a first-round bye. And so we have to utilize week 13 as our bye week. And once we hit Sunday and know our opponent, we got to get ready to roll.
You take a quarterback in this cycle. I think you've taken one every cycle so far. Do you think it's important to get a quarterback every single year? And given the reality of the portal, how difficult is it to keep 4 quarterbacks for 4 years?
I think it will be difficult. You can only play one, but as you see right now, we have 4 quarterbacks on scholarship in our room that all want to be here, and that's important. And it's a reflection of Coach Gaduli and Coach Denbrock and what they've really done with that quarterbacks room. But every year you're going to take a quarterback in, and I think with the understanding that you want to keep 4 quarterbacks on scholarship, but you also understand that at any moment somebody can go into the transfer portal, so at least you would have 3. So that's something that we've, in the previous years and this year and continuing moving forward, unless things change, we want to continue to do, take a quarterback.
Back of the room to the right, Matt Freeman.
Marcus, you guys have prioritized and had success with camp evaluations. How do those kind of give you guys conviction on whether or not to offer or not offer someone?
I mean, there's nothing more crucial than a live eval. That's something that I feel strongly in. We encourage any guy we take to see him play live, see him practice live, see him work out live, have a camp eval, something where you can see, you can get on a website and get times. But I think there's competitiveness that you can see in person. There's movement skills that you can see in person that tell you a lot about a prospect. And so I think it's really important that we continue to get guys on campus and get live evals. We've had commits that come to camp, right? We want to see you compete. We want to coach you. I think that's so important when you're looking for bringing in recruits to your program.
Up the middle to the left, Mike Berardino.
Marcus, the quality of Indiana high school football, again, you tap into that with 3 guys. Maybe broadly, how have you seen it improve over your whole career, really, in the Midwest? And maybe talk a little bit about each of those guys.
Well, I mean, I spent 4 years at Purdue, and so Indiana football is strong. And the best players in Indiana are guys that we're going to try to get to Notre Dame. And we did a really good job this year. I think we got 3 guys from this state that we feel really strongly about. And as you look at the Chicagoland area, that's another area that we want to make sure that we do a good job in our state, in that Chicagoland area. And I think we got 3 commits out of there. And so it's something we're going to continue to target, right? That, hey, let's try to target the best players in Indiana, make sure that they feel like Notre Dame is their home and a place they want to be a part of. But also include that Chicagoland area.
And then a number of guys with multi-sport backgrounds, some hockey, lacrosse, this and that. What's the benefit of that, maybe even when they give up those sports for good, that they can plug into the physiological aspect, overcoming injuries along the way, and just the competitive aspect of playing multiple sports at their highest level?
I think there's movements that playing in different sports can really help you with in football. We can evaluate you. In football, you see quite a few of our guys, Dom Hulak, James Flanigan, both are hockey players. I know Matty Augustine, I think at one point was a hockey player. We got Elijah Burress as a track runner. I can get down a list about multi-sport athletes. And yes, there's the basic athleticism, movement traits that different sports give you, but the thing I keep coming back to is that competitive spirit. Like, it's hard to compete sometimes just going to a trainer, right? And somebody might say you're wrong because we can compete in our training session, but I want to see you go head-to-head in track. I want to see you go head-to-head in baseball with Brandon Logan, right? I want to see you play baseball and competitive spirit and, maybe not look to just specialize in one sport. I love multi-sport guys. Keeps you busy, keeps you in shape. We got some multi-sport athletes here at Notre Dame, right? Guys that are playing football and lacrosse. They all play football. Guys that are playing baseball and lacrosse, and we love that. I encourage that, and I think it's something that we put tremendous value in.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Marcus, you've talked in the past about being an O-line driven program. What stands out? O-line, D-line driven program. But I wanted to ask specifically about the O-line. What stands out about the 4 guys you signed there?
Well, we wanted to target tackles, and we wanted a center. And that's what we got. We got 3 tackles that Really, we had them all in camp. We had Matty, we had Will, we had Owen, all in camp, all live evals, offered them probably early before they kind of blew up. And then Cam was a guy that he came to camp. We really, really liked him. We said, man, can we take a center? Can we take a center? He's a center, maybe a guard. And he just kept playing and getting better and better and better. And then Coach Rudolph saw him live, and it's like he's in our state. Man, I do not want to play against this guy one day. We need him a part of this team, and really like what he brings to our offensive line room.
You've also talked in the past about how team speed is really important. You mentioned it earlier with the wide receivers. Where else do you feel like you've improved team speed with this class?
Well, I think you look at our DBs. We've done a really good job with recruiting DBs. It's probably our biggest DB class. As you look at, we take 6 total, right, in JaDon and Brandon Logan, who's a guy we had in camp. JaDon came here and competed. Ethan Long's another guy that came to camp. Dallas Golden is extremely fast, can play both sides of the ball. One of the best that I've seen in high school, man, really, really special player. Creed Thomas is another guy that we had live evals on, runs track, decathlete. And so you look at that, and Mark Zachary, another multi-sport athlete. I said he's one of the few football players that can truly play basketball. Like most of our guys that play basketball are football players just on the basketball court. He's a basketball player. Like when he's on the basketball court, he is a unique talent. And so all those guys provide speed. All those guys provide a benefit to what we're looking for, and we were looking to add to this recruiting class.
Coach Freeman, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have football general manager Chad Bowden.
How we doing? Before I get started, I do have a couple thank yous. Obviously, there's a lot of people that go into creating this class. Our recruiting staff, our student interns, Coach Freeman. I always say my job's so easy because of how good of a coach he is. So obviously, and how good of a recruiter he is. So I would like to thank Coach Freeman, the coaching staff, Pete Bavacqua, Ron Paulus, Katie Lonergan. Would like to thank our academics and admissions, Adam Sargent, Mickey Kidder, Shannon Kelly, Deb Johns. I would like to thank our strategic development department, Pat Rogers and Scott Connors. Rally with Kayla Rogers, Anthony Travel, Madison Hahn. Our compliance staff, Sydney Sykes, Heidi Ubler, Brent Moberg, Jeff Perry, and Tempest Jenkins. Shalika Shetty and Kevin, a.k.a. Boom McMahon, and the entire FIM team. Nathan Bush, for keeping South Bend up all night long for our legacy walks. I know you guys hear those at night. And the South Bend community for not calling the police on us for those legacy walks. So for that, if you want to get this thing rolling.
Front row on your right, John Bryce.
Chad, when you have a late development like Matt Entz getting the Fresno State job, how much does that underscore the need to have authenticity in the relationships with the recruit like a Madden?
Yeah, I mean the reason we got Madden is because we have the best coaches in the country recruiting them. We have Coach Freeman's he's a linebacker guy as our head coach. You have Coach Bulla, who obviously coach linebackers, and Coach Golden, who in the NFL coach linebackers. Those three are the reason why Madden's here today and why he signed with the Irish.
And then from your time back to Cincinnati and maybe even a student worker role, I can't remember how you got started there, but to where it is now as a GM, just how much have you seen college football recruiting evolve in the last half a dozen years, and what do you think is the next evolution?
I couldn't tell you what the next evolution is, but I know we're going to always be on top of it because college football changes every day. You never know what's going to go through, what's not going to go through at the NCAA, and we just continue to push and try to develop and get better. The signing days change. A lot of dates have changed. Contact days, when you go on the road, there's so much that has changed. But we always have a plan. We have multiple plans to make sure that we're on top of everything.
Third row on your right, Tim Priester.
Right here. The question I asked Coach Freeman maybe is best suited for you, and that is the changes that occur on a regular basis in recruiting. What happened this year that maybe made you say, next year I think we need to approach it differently this way?
Yeah, every year we look at enhancing what our recruiting process is always. I think signing day changing, I think not going on the road in December, I think maybe some of the things that we did during the season, something that we can look at. But there's so many different things that we're going to look at to enhance, and we do that every single year with every cycle. We have an end of the year meeting. I meet with Coach Freeman, go over what we feel like we've done well, where we missed. He obviously gives us his feedback, and we get together and come up with the best plan for 2026.
With regard to James Flanigan and the recruiting process with him, I'm not sure that you were in on him right, like when he was still really young in high school, but just the process of recruiting him and his ability on both sides of the football.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that offensively and defensively he's a phenomenal athlete. He's very physical at the point of contact. He's a guy we are fired up about. I know early on, obviously his dad, Jim, means a lot to this program, means a lot to all of us. We were on James early. It might not have appeared that way, but we've always had our eye on James. We've had our eye on the Flanigan family, and we'll continue to do so.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Chad, right here, with Blake Hebert, how did that flip come together, and what does he bring to that quarterback room?
Yeah, Blake's leadership, first off, is something that you could be around him and he lights up the room. There's something about that kid that you just see it. You could see it on the field. You could see it with his teammates. They light up when they're around him. They love it. They love playing for him. That's what really attracted us to Blake. And then Blake, it was just a mutual interest. That's really what it was. He went to Brunswick School. Our unbelievable athletic director obviously went there, and I think being at that school kind of helped him understand that there's more to life than just football. And I think that played a big part in his interest in the University of Notre Dame when it came down the stretch.
And I wanted to ask you about the offensive line as well. Like, what excites you about adding those four guys to a room that's got all of a sudden a lot of young talent and competition there? Yeah,
we needed tackles. We needed tackles in this class, and we feel like we got the best tackles in the country with Owen, Matty, and Will. And then obviously we needed a center. I know Coach just hit on it, but we really needed to get a center in this class. All four of those guys came to camp or some type of skills camp that we've identified. These are guys. I think Coach Rudolph does the best job in the country recruiting offensive linemen. We have nothing but trust and respect for his evaluations and how he sees things, and felt those were the best guys in the country, and we went out and got them.
Front row all the way to your right, Erik Hansen.
Hey, Chad, with early enrollees, how many of these guys are early enrollees, and is it still the advantage that a lot of people perceive it to be? Because you guys have had a lot of June enrollees be really good freshmen. I'm curious your thoughts on those two things.
Yeah, so we have 13 guys that'll be coming at mid-semester, and then we'll have 12 guys in the summer. There's different stories one way or the other. We have plenty of really good mid-semester stories that have been a part of our program, guys that have come in and played right away. You could look at a Kingston and a guy that came in has contributed, and then you look at guys in the summer. Just last year, Leonard Moore came in the summer, and you see what he's doing now. So, it goes both ways. Everyone's path is different, as Coach Freeman would say, and one way or the other, we're going to coach them, develop them, and do the best we can when they get here. And one way or the other, they're going to have an opportunity to play.
I'm sure you will adapt to whatever the NCAA tells you to do, but is there a strategic advantage in having the signing period before the portal opens for you, for Notre Dame?
I would say yes. It just gives you more time to just truly focus on what we were able to do in high school. I think they're totally two separate periods, and for us to across the country to just be able to focus on getting the guys that we've had committed for so long, especially with how recruiting is nowadays. You have guys sometimes committed for 2 to 3 years, which we did in this class. whether they were silent or whether they were committed the whole time. So for us to be able to focus on just getting those guys signed before we move on to the portal, it's great for us.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horka.
I asked Marcus about the quarterbacks. I'm going to ask you because these, going into next year, these are all guys that you have recruited. So just what does it say about kind of the direction of that position group to where you guys are really home-growing these guys and they're all recruits like Blake Hebert and Steve Angeli and down the line?
We feel great about the quarterback room. We feel great about, going into next season with what we have. I know that, and really believe in the guys that we've recruited, and that's really all I have to say about that.
Last question opportunity on your left, Tyler James.
Hey, Chad, what sort of importance do you think played in these recruits seeing the freshmen play and make impacts on the team this past season, or this current season?
I think anytime you see freshmen ahead of you, and it was just like that, the year before that, anytime you see freshmen that are playing ahead of you, you see a path. You could see it, and I think it's important. Again, every path's different, so you don't know, when that time's going to happen. You look at Xavier Watts, for example, you just don't know. You don't know when your time's going to be called. But I think for them to be able to visually see that there is a path for you to play, we're going to play the best player. That's our coaching staff, Coach Freeman, his philosophy is we're going to play the best. We're going to play the best player, and doesn't matter how old you are, that's what we're going to do.
There were a number of players you guys were going after late in the cycle. Madden was obviously one of them.
Yeah.
What goes into the decision to figure out which guys to push for in the final hours, which guys are worth that investment down the stretch, and then also on top of that, what was your reaction to Madden's news?
Well, I heard Coach Freeman screaming, so I didn't know if something was going on. I really wanted to check on him, but no, I mean we were fired up. The whole staff came out. Everyone was hugging each other. I mean, it was a really special moment, a moment I'll never forget. But it's really like that with everybody. It's so funny in recruiting. Everyone cares so much about what happens at the end. They forget about what we have before that. And we have an unbelievable class. I love this class. It's got incredible depth. It's solid at every position. But we celebrate every win in recruiting, and we evaluate every loss. Now, as you go down the stretch, I know everyone says you could be after, certain people. There are certain people that we push, some we didn't. When you recruit a kid for so long, you figure out towards the end who's really worth it, who values this place and wants to be here. And, those are the guys we push, and those are the guys that we got.
Chad, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.